What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reap the Harvest show. Matt Tack, we've got our guest, Bruce, here today. Bruce, how are you?
Dr. Bruce Snavely.
Dr. Bruce Snavely. It's a fancy last name, very sophisticated. It's no surprise to me that you're a doctor. So we're going to kick in the intro video. These two geniuses are going to take it away, and we're looking forward to another great episode today. Awesome. Dr. Bruce Snavely in the house. You guys take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it. How you doing today, Bruce?
Doing well, Matt.
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this. I always have some great conversations with you. And we've been planning this for actually a little while now. So I'm finally excited to bring you on and to dig in a little bit about your foundation. But Bruce, I'll let you know, at Reap the Harvest, I came up with the concept of the name originally. Because it's more of obviously a spiritual presence, right? The harvest is plentiful, but the labors are few. And I know in the world that I live in, right, I have to hustle. I hustle every day. And I know the hustle is hustle from three different phases. I always break up my life in three different phases. Spiritual mindset becomes most importantly to me first. So that's how I try to start off my day. But the spiritual then goes to health. Health is number two because health is wealth to me. And I know, Bruce, you're built like a brick wall, and you are health is important to you as well. So health is wealth to me. We go number two, and then number three, we go into what I consider the financial piece, and the financial piece is important from the perspective of like the giver's mentality. And how you create wealth, and then how wealth is created, but then what is expected of it after you create it. So I just those are the three areas, kind of pillars of my life that I try to build around, that I try to keep and maintain. Number one, obviously, one being the most important. And I know that you specifically have led the Global Baptist Training Foundation. You started out. Can you tell us a little bit about your story? I've known you for a little bit now, but can you tell us about your story, kind of how you even came to start a foundation, number one, and what I always call it the giver's game, right? Of just you have a giver's mentality and you're giving, but your giving not only has produced some awesome children that I know obviously personally, but your giving has produced something and a global impact that far outreaches, specifically kind of the at home, which you've kind of set your foundation. But can you just give us a little backstory on kind of where you all derived from spiritually in the educational realm to the then becoming a missionary and then ultimately starting up the Global Baptist Training Foundation?
Sure. Well, we have been in missions for over 40 years, and in 2000, and we started teaching on the college level. I went from church planning in Canada to teaching in college, and in conjunction with that, I went back to school and did a master's degree. And then in 2003, when we started with college up in the Northeast in Boston, we had an opportunity to finish my PhD in church history. And so that became the baseline for my education. My wife, Grace, has her master's as well in education. And between the both of us, we've never been able, even though we were teaching, to get missions out of our systems. And so in 2012, I was just considering, and asking the Lord, Lord, what could I do to kind of put together, our life of missions as well as our educational privileges that we've been able to manage and gain in our life. And the Lord just laid this foundation on my heart. And really, it's all about, for me, the motivation was I didn't want to teach college kids for the rest of my life, in the U.S. And for many, that's a great passion and a great burden, but it wasn't mine. I wanted to take my teaching around the world, and we wanted to do it in conjunction with missions. So we decided to start a training foundation that would invest in indigenous people anywhere in the world where God led us that didn't have education or didn't have access to it. And what we didn't know then, but what we know now, is that there are literally thousands of indigenous believers in Jesus Christ all over the world who have access to education or the money to pay for it, and they are the ones that are best suited and the best situated to reach their nations for Christ, but they're not trained properly to do it. So our mission is to take the training, the education to them in mobile classrooms on a weekly, whole weekly modular classrooms in various subject matter over a period of about a 2-year period to the same group, and train them so that they can have the Bible college education / seminary education that they've never been able to. And so that's what we do. And it's just been an amazing experience to discover how many of these indigenous native peoples there are all over the world who are waiting for the training so that they can do the job themselves in missions and reaching their nations.
I love that concept. So Bruce is actually an author too. I think, how many books have you wrote? You wrote a few, right?
I've done 3 so far. So
3?
yeah, the latest
the latest is Indigenous. Is that the latest? And so again, Indigenous, check it out. I think you can pick it up on Amazon too, right?
Yeah.
So just type in Indigenous Bruce Snavely, check it out. But the concept is all kind of derived within that book, right? Of it's what I interpret, maybe I'm wrong by even saying this, but it was kind of the Westerner saviorism that we thought that, hey, we have to send Westerners over to these indigenous parts. But the reality, you think, is really flip-flopped, right? Where actually, no, we can provide the training in the internal organization as far as through education, and really empower them through that process of education to really deliver a message, the spiritual message of Jesus Christ in this case, to rural parts of all over Africa. Tell us what pieces of what parts of Africa you're in, how many churches have been planted because of your organization, I think that's just it was empowering just to hear kind of how your the concept of this has really expanded in just a short period of time.
Yeah, it's been amazing. We've been at it now 8 years as a 501c3, and we started in West Africa or East Africa, and then we're over in East Africa or West Africa now. So we're all over the continent. We're also in Myanmar. We're in Mexico. Myanmar is in East Asia, and we've been in various other places as well, but we're concentrating in East and West Africa right now. But just for instance, in Rwanda, we've had our first East African trainer that we've actually trained, and we don't believe in empowering with resources to start churches, guys who haven't. So our mission is to train them, and then we've had the good fortune of being linked up with other individuals that raise money exclusively for church planners, and they support these men that we've trained to go out and start churches. Case in point, in Liberia, where we have been now for about 2 years, we have seen in 28 to 30 months, get this, over 120 new churches started in just that short period of time. In a 30-month period, about 120 new churches started. And these are with trained individuals that have gone through at least one level of our classes, and most of them have completed 2 levels of the classes. So, levels are about 7 courses apiece. So they are getting the training that they need, and then they're getting about $50 a month from our church planning associate that is giving them support for about a year. And in a year's time, they are required to get a church started, and then that support stops. And one of the things that makes this so amazing is the fact that it costs us literally nothing. This kind of evangelism happen, but it happened with the indigenous, not with sending Western couples halfway around the world who don't know the language, don't understand the culture, and don't have a natural love for the people.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
that's great. So I love the concept of that too, right? On how it's only 1 year, right? You're empowering them to really think and act like an entrepreneur.
They get
in
the
many ways.
year. They get it for 1 year, and then
1 year.
and that's it. And every one of them, to the man, has been able to get a church started and make it a continuous assembly as a church that meets and functions in that time.
That's amazing. And so you said over 120 churches in the past 30 months have been planted because of your mission?
That's right. And I just got a letter the other day, or I got a telephone call, in fact, from one of our church planners in West Africa, in Liberia, and they've started, since COVID shut down in January, they've started a new church. So, and that's
Nice.
without us and without any support.
That's unreal. So how that was actually my next question that I wanted. How has COVID impacted you from number one, of communications, how you're leading, how you're evangelizing, how you're empowering these pastors too abroad to continue their efforts? How is that, or has it empowered you? Has it really created new challenges in a good way?
It really has, and you can take those one of two ways, Matt. You can shut down and say, "Woe is me," or you can take the shutdown to really seeing what God can do in that time, and that's what we focused on. They're shut down just like we are. They have border closings; they can't go from country to country, and a lot of them have real social requirements of not being able to meet and function, as a group. So all of that is just as important to them there as it has become to us here. And but despite that fact, they are on. In fact, one of the things this has really reinforced with us is the fact that we are constantly teaching and sharing with our American friends and supporters. Hey, we have to send Westerners the work that indigenous people can do better for themselves. And here's a perfect case in point. We've been shut down. We can't get there. We can't get on an airplane. We see them. We can talk to them. We can have Zoom meetings with them. But everything that they have done since the shutdown, they've done on their own. And it's demonstrated to us that they don't need us, other than the fact that we offer them and help them to do the work of the ministry more effectively. And the shutdown simply reinforced the fact that we don't need a bunch of Western missionaries coming to settle down among them. What they need is training, and that's what we're providing. And you give it to them and you empower them, and you can give them a little stipend a month to take the pressure off, put some food on their table so they can go out and do the work of the ministry. They take the ball and run with it. And they believe in themselves. When you train them and they what they've got, they believe in it and they believe in themselves, and they can really do a super job.
That's amazing. So I want to ask you a couple different questions. But one of them is something that you provided me. What is unique in particular about this training? But as we've been talking, you remind me and this is really why I look up to you and believe in the mission really of the Global Baptist Training Foundation, is because John Maxwell's quote, right? Leaders create leaders. And one of the best legacies you can leave, right, is by creating other leaders. And that's exactly what you're doing, right? You're creating leaders, you're empowering leaders to actually create and expand and create influence within their own communities. But what in particular allows you to do that? What is so unique that has allowed you to expand and grow so quickly, being a 501c3?
Well, you've got to go back to the Lord just really blessing. God has opened this door, and He has it's one of those. It's one of those like the church in Philadelphia in Revelation, where the God's opened the door and no man can shut it. We've discovered something here in training the indigenous that is a powerful and dynamic missions type of program, and it works. And you know, we've just landed on something that God blesses, and I can't say anything more other than that. One of the things that I will say on a practical level is when we start a classroom, let's say when we go back to Liberia and we had to cancel classes for September, not going to be able to go. We might be able to get into Rwanda and Uganda in October. We're praying, but January is really the time when we're going to reestablish 2 classrooms in 2-week classes in Western Africa again. One of those places is going to be down on the Ivory Coast in Liberia. It's on their eastern coast, and they're on the Ivory Coast. They're on that border. We're going to see a new classroom started with a bunch over from the Ivory Coast, and that's going to give us an inroad into a new country. One of the things that I do the first day that I hold class on Monday morning, when I walk in at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, and I'm looking at 70 guys that have come from all over a country, traveling up to 12 hours to get there, and they're ready for a week worth of classes. They're going to sleep on the grounds for that week and get 5 days, about 7 hours a day of training. The first thing I do in that first hour is I look at them and I say, guys, I don't want you here unless you want to be here. And I don't want you here unless you're willing to take responsibility for everything that you're going to be taught and train at least 10 other men with training that you receive from this syllabus and this particular theological subject that you're going to get trained in this week. And I say, listen, that's your responsibility. You got to become a trainer. Once you've been trained, you've got to vouch and determine that you're going to train others with what you get. And very serious hour. And when I get done, and along with that time, Matt, I also say, listen, you guys are the key to success. You're the ones that are able. You're the ones that are going to get equipped. You're the ones that God is going to use. And they get so excited when they are fully informed and encouraged in the work. I've had standing ovations within that first hour. And you can imagine what that would be like to have 70 indigenous men in Liberia stand up and start clapping and raising their hands.
Yeah.
Know that you're there to empower them, not to tell them what to do or how to do it, but just the training that they need to be able to function biblically.
Yeah, that's amazing. On a much lower scale, that's funny that you do that. I guess my question, before I tell you this little story, have you ever had somebody get up and walk out after you say that? Never. Danny Meyer does this. So Danny Meyer is actually he's a restaurateur, and he has started up Shake Shack, but he has George Beard Award winners all over the place. Like being a little bit of a foodie. But whenever he actually is still ingrained in the hiring process of every restaurant that they open. And one of the things that he does is exactly that. He's like, look, if you don't want to be here, get out of here right now. Because I only wanted people that are going to be faithful to the cause, that see the vision, and that are going to be true the pioneers of success, right? And he's the one who empowers and creates those leaders. This one being a leader for kingdom success. So that's what is unique about this and the Global Baptist Training Foundation is that it's meant to train and to lead and empower, but from a global impact. So I think that's super cool. I know that you've already explained some of the results, but if you could give us a few more results, what kind of results have you seen from the training globally? I know you've been in areas, and you've given us some of the statistics, but if you could dive into that a little bit more, some of the results that you have seen, both at a very maybe intrinsic level and then at more of a macro level.
Well, the intrinsic level is that you're seeing men's lives changed that have never envisioned themselves as leaders and as trainers. In fact, it takes a couple of years of training to get them to the place where they see that God has uniquely qualified them to work, and that they don't need me or a bunch of other white people necessarily.
Mhm.
They don't need Westerners on any level. What they need is training, and they need
Mhm.
biblical. That's all it is. And when they become convinced of that, they become different people, and they deeply love and respect you for loving and respecting them. Because oftentimes missions has not had a good track record in the in previous decades, where missionary groups would go in, or societies would go in, and they would train these people, or they would start churches, but they didn't empower them the way that they need to be empowered so they could carry on after they were gone. And I've
Mhm.
heard some real horror stories of the power plays that were made among the
Yeah.
indigenous, because the white Westerners didn't want to show them their hand. It
Mhm.
was like, we know more than you, and we want to keep it that way. Well, that isn't the way we operate at all. We tell them they know more than us, and we want them to keep it that way, because
Mhm.
we're just there to train them. We turn the thing completely on its head in that sense. But
Yeah.
on a macro level, Matt,
Mhm.
we've seen scores and scores and scores of men that have been trained in East Asia. In Myanmar, is 89% Buddhist. After 200 years of mission activity in that country, believe it or not, it's still almost 90% Buddhist. And I asked one of our hosts when I was there teaching last year, I said, Luke, he's our host, Luke, why is it that after 200 years of missionary service, and you remember the first missionary to Burma, to Myanmar, was Adoniram Judson. You read about him probably in school or heard about him. Shore is one of the great biographies of Adoniram Judson, the first American missionary to leave America in 1812. And an amazing testimony. But even though he was so successful in starting churches and reaching people for Christ, that nation remains dark today, because there hasn't been enough of the indigenous men and women trained with a global vision to reach their nation for Christ. And we're there trying to do that now. In fact, Luke is working to become one of our trainers in East Africa. But as I said before, even though we've trained hundreds, it has to become locused or focused in individuals who are trainers themselves. We don't follow the dictum that we just a bunch of people. Our is to train trainers so they can carry on with our materials in their own native language and train
Mhm.
up definitely. And that's what we're really seeing exponentially happening now in Africa. We're in a fundraising campaign right now. We're trying to raise just a small amount of money, but it's $4,000 a year to support 20 men, 10 in East Africa and 10
How
in
much?
West
How
Africa.
much money? Say that
It's about
again.
it's about $84,000 a year, and
84 for how many years?
this is forever. But we want to continue.
84,000. Yeah.
We want to perpetually train men, and it's going to take about $250 to $300 a month, maybe more,
250 a
maybe
month.
as much as 350, to support one of these trainers, to make them able to put food on their tables, pay their rents or whatever, buy a
Mhm.
motorbike or have a motorbike, put gas in it, so they can train and hold classes weekly, uh, exponentially
Mhm.
multiply what we're able to do on a 2-week classroom a year schedule. They'll be able to hold as many as 10 to 15 classrooms a year at $300 a month, which is pennies on the dollar for what it takes to support a Western missionary couple on a month to go and live someplace. It takes anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 a month to support.
Absolutely.
We can get the job done and do exponentially more in terms of training and reproducing churches through the indigenous. So that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to raise money to get 10 trainers in the East, 10 trainers in the West supported, and
Okay.
and then turn them loose. And we want to do that in every African nation all over the continent. We're in our East African trainer, for instance, Matt. He's going to be in Tanzania. He's going to be in Kenya. He's going to be in Rwanda, Uganda. He's going to be in the Congo. We haven't been able to be in the Congo for 3 years. He's
Wow.
from the Congo. His name is Fidel. He's from the Congo. He's going to, in fact, his first classroom, as soon as COVID is over, is to open up a classroom in the Congo. So we're excited, when we can get these guys supported, it's going to be an amazing transformation of what Global Baptist Training Foundation is able to do.
That's amazing. So I got to ask this then. This is thank you for sharing that information. It's obviously evident to me because I know you actually personally. I've known you for a little while, but one of the reasons why I highly respect you, and then ultimately this vision. Number one, it's very entrepreneurial, right? You have to. This is creating a new concept, a visionary concept. Missions has never been created this way. I truly believe probably you're one of the first guys, right, to go in there and empowering other individuals. So it's really, really cool. And I go back to the leg of how you're creating these people, but I want the people listening in to really know of one of the reasons. So surrounding yourselves with people like this, or looking up and creating mentors at a level like Bruce, because the fruits are in your labor, right? My mom always tells me, you are where you are today by the decisions that you make, right? And my mom, she always puts that in me. She's like, you better make a good decision. You better make a good decision. And so I always go with the impact now of, having kids. And I'm looking at my kids and as they're growing up. And I remember it was a while back, but I was talking to you on the beach. We were the waves were hitting our feet. And we're in a conversation. I look back and I was like, man, that man has to be blessed on what he produced, right? God has really blessed him with some awesome children. And for me, what I've noticed with children in my life, that the more I serve my wife, the more I feel the more I feel validated at the end of the day. And I feel like your act of service, even to your wife, has really had a compound effect to your family. Your family has really been the fruits of kind of your labor, and now has been also the fruits in kind of expanding a vision into the Global Baptist Training Foundation. So can you tell us a little bit about how, in the day of Bruce, maybe, how really, because it's you and your wife that are organizing this effort and really empowering this effort, and she's the empowerer to you on a daily basis. How has your wife really been a focal point for you, and how have you been able to serve her in that capacity on a daily basis of really creating and moving this thing forward? If that makes sense. No long question.
That's a great question. You can't do this alone, and it takes a team. And so when Grace and I started this back in 2012, it was a joint mission, and we were in it together. We poured everything that we had, financially, spiritually, educationally, collectively, into this effort. And Grace and I traveled for quite some together, but her mom lives with us. She's 96 years old.
Nice.
And so Grace has not been able to travel for about 3 or 4 years on a regular basis. But that doesn't mean that she's not heavily involved. In fact, she's on the home front here, answering, doing all of the book work and taking care of all of the work that goes into handling and taking responsibility for the administration of the foundation. Our board has been just exceptional in helping us to make key decisions and to move forward in an intelligent way without biting off more than we can chew. But at the same time, God's given us great visionary steps that we've moved in, and that He's blessed when we've taken them. And so it's just amazing how God has worked. And without a team, you can't do what we do. And we've got a team of those that are now traveling with us or going in other places for us. And, that's all part of it. But I think one of the keys to success as we've worked our team, both Grace and myself and the others that work with us, is that we have tried to stay within ourselves, and we've tried to take the steps that the Lord has led in, and we haven't tried to do more than what we're capable of at any given time. And that has allowed us to reflect and refine and do better in the things that we are doing than self so thin that we become ineffective.
Yeah,
You know,
that's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
it's been, it's just been an extremely gratifying experience, and we feel every day like we're just getting started. So that's a great way to get up in the morning and feel about what it is that God's led you to do.
Oh my gosh, the gratitude. I love it. Well, I appreciate you, Bruce. I appreciate your mission. I appreciate the vision that you have, and in particular your family, but most importantly, the vision that you have for the kingdom, right?
Yeah, that's unbelievable stuff. Thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure sitting here and listening to you guys chat. Congratulations on the success. And I mean, what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. It's phenomenal.
We appreciate.
So I want, Bruce, before we sign off, we gotta ask you. So number one, where can people follow you? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Can they follow you anywhere?
Yeah, they can go to GBT to see our website, but we're also on Facebook. We've got a Facebook account, Global Baptist Training Foundation. I've got a personal account under my name. Grace has got a personal account, and we're on Instagram as well. And my daughter will often send out videos and stuff like that to keep people current on what's happening.
And so then there's the strategic focus, and then obviously I like the very clear monetary goals, and I hope those, and I pray they'll be exceeded. But $84,000 a year, and that's to partner up and deploy that to partner up with young men and empower men around the country. So how can somebody partner up with you? Is that going to be through your website? How somebody can go and actually find you and partner up with you? I'm sure it's like a World Vision where you can actually go and you probably can set up EFT or something like that where they can fund you on a monthly basis. Yeah. Tell us how we can partner up.
Well, we try to make it as easy as possible. If you go to gbtf.net, there is a donate now button, and you can go. You can be involved as well up top, and it'll take you right there to the donation page. And if you want to support, we've got several ways you could do it. If you're just getting started in missions, for instance, want to just get your feet wet, you can support a pastor, get his education for 1 full year, 2 visits a year by our foundation to train him for $20 a month. And that's the easiest way to get started. If you want to support, let's say, like one of the trainers that we're raising funding now, and if you're a little more financially capable, you want to support one of those guys, about $300 a month, we'll do it. And that's part of that $84,000 a year that we're raising exclusively for them. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to give in any fashion that you'd like, a reoccurring gift, we like those that partner with us, that really get the vision and sit down and say, hey, I want to partner with Global and support on a monthly basis. And of course, if you want to make a one-time gift, you can do it right there on the donation page at gbtf.net. And we'd love people also to read the book, indigenousbook.com. You can go there and you can see a trailer on the book and get familiar with what's going on, and even order the book, read it. And I think if people read the book, they'd really fall in love more with what we're doing, and want to partner with us. And we're excited about what God is doing, and it's His work. And I want to remind folks that are listening, this isn't our work. This is His work. And when we become aware of that, then partnering takes a whole different level. It's a whole different thing when we see this is God's stuff, and I'm getting involved on some level, financially or prayerfully or otherwise. So,
love it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Glad we got to do this. Always good talking to you. It's definitely always a pleasure. Say hi to the family for me as well.
I will.
We'll definitely talk soon. Thank you so much, Bruce.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it, man. Great stuff today. Thanks for coming on. We'll see everybody next time.